solve for x to the nearest 10th. So I have this triangle here. Let me do a think aloud about this triangle. In this triangle, I'm supposed to solve for x, and x is a side. I know it's a side because it's outside the triangle. I can't use Pythagorean theorem because Pythagorean theorem says I need to know two sides of the triangle to solve for the third side. I'm not going to use triangle sum theorem. Triangle sum theorem is talking about angles, and angles do refer to the inside, but x is on the outside. In this problem, I'm going to have to use SOHCAHTOA. I'm going to use trig functions to solve for this. The first thing I'm going to do is label. Labeling basically means finding your given angle. And now I can label the sides of the triangle. Class, if I go across, this side is called the opposite. This one is the hypotenuse. Remember, always go in that order. And then the last one is called the adjacent. Okay. Then the question is, which trig function do I use? So listen as I think out loud. Hypotenuse has something. Adjacent has something. It's just an unknown. The opposite side has nothing. Because it has nothing and gives me no puzzle pieces, I'm not going to use any of the trig functions that have an O. In this problem, I'm going to use cosine. So, determine the trig function. Determine the trig function. I found cosine because I have the adjacent and the hypotenuse side. The opposite side, there's nothing there, so you can just cross it off. So now that I have cosine, cosine of the angle is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And then I can just substitute in my information that we have. We know that the angle is equal to 40 degrees. So I have cosine of 40 degrees. I have the adjacent side. The adjacent side is an x measured in centimeters, so I can just put an x there. And the hypotenuse is 7.6. So I'm going to put in there 7.6. To solve for x, I'm going to make this a fraction, and I can solve proportions by cross multiplying. I get x equals cosine of 40 degrees, which we talked about yesterday using extra set of parentheses, times 7.6. So to summarize, this is kind of like my third step. This is called a calculator-ready equation. Calculator-ready equation. I'm going to give you 3 out of 4 points on a free response if this is correct, even if your answer is wrong. Because I now can input this into my calculator. So, cosine of 40, remember extra set of parentheses, times 7.6. Now there are two ways that you know it tells you to round to the nearest tenth. It tells you that. And the second way is that one of your sides is actually to measure to the tenth. So, whoops. You press enter, and I get approximately 5.8. So x is approximately 5.8 centimeters. Now, I want to show you guys how to do the same problem, get the same answer, but do it a little bit different. In triangle sum theorem, if this was 40, this one has to be 50. Because this is 90, therefore this has to equal 90. That's why they're complementary angles. 40 plus 50 equals 90. And then The reason why I did that is so that I can use a different trig function if I wanted to. And then from here, this side is the opposite, and this is the hypotenuse. So I have the sine function. Sine of 50 degrees is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Sine of 50 degrees is equal to the x over the hypotenuse. And if I basically do the same thing, put it over 1, cross multiply, my calculator ready equation is 7.6 times sine of 50 degrees. And you get the same answer. Now, that was just to show you that you can use the given angle, or you can use the other angle, which is a complement, and you get the same answer.